The Fantasy Fanatics Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
All right, let's talk about the White Sox as we know all the moves that they've made, but, they still don't have a second baseman. I mean, they're probably going to play that Carlos Sanchez guy, but, we haven't really seen him play yet. We don't know what he's going to do.
I'm not even... see, the thing is, the White Sox improved a lot, except, as you said, they don't have a second baseman. I wouldn't say they have a third baseman either.
Yeah, Connor Gillespie is questionable.
He's more like a bench player or a utility guy that... I mean, he seems like a good left-handed bat. He's not a starting third baseman.
Right.
And the back end of that rotation, like John Danks, I mean, granted, he's not terrible, except he's not very good. I mean, he's kind of bad. I mean, his ERA is like...
He has an ERA...
over 450 when he's making $15 million, which is hindering the payroll. And then you got Hector Noesi.
Yeah, he hasn't done much. Noesi hasn't, he's not... I'm not confident that he can have an ERA at least in the fours. No. It's going to be tough.
And the sad thing is they don't have anyone better to replace either of them.
Right. But, they did increase their bullpen. They have an actual closer now, which is, exciting for them. But, I'm not sure how many safe situations they're going to be in.
Except then the thing is, it's just shelling out the big money to free agent relief pitchers. They're the toughest to judge in free agency. That's why even when the Cubs bullpen was so bad, Theo never went and just signed a bunch of free agent relievers because he knew that's not how you build a bullpen, especially
there's
a bullpen.
No point to do that.
Especially when, look... And he waited on his patience, and look, he got Pedro Strop, Neil Ramirez, and Hector Rondon, and those guys are probably better than anybody he could have signed as a free agent during his tenure with the Cubs.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I don't know. I don't think... I mean, I know the White Sox are going to be much improved. And
they will be improved because they got Samardzija. They added a couple bullpen arms. Obviously, Adam LaRoche to be the DH. You'd like to think that he'll hit for a higher average than Adam Dunn.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then, of course...
He should be able to bat maybe 260, 270.
Right, and now they got a legit number 2 hitter in that lineup to pair after Eaton and Melky Cabrera, where Alexi can go a little further down in the lineup and drive in runs, which is what his job is to drive in runs, not bat second and get on base.
Right.
He's better in the RBI situations.
Yeah, and he does really well in those situations too.
I wouldn't expect him to do as good as last year.
No, I don't think so.
And his numbers may have been maybe a little more stacked up, mostly because of that hot April start when he set the White Sox franchise record for hits in a game to start a season.
That's right.
He's hitting 350 after May, and then he toned down to 270 on the year. So
right, and that leaves Dion Viciedo in a bench role.
Right, which I read which you can't leave him in a bench role. I read that Jordan Danks is likely to be the backup outfielder, and that they're likely to trade Viciedo for a bullpen arm.
Are they actively trying to trade Dion Viciedo?
Yes,
okay, that's good news.
They still want another bullpen arm.
Yeah, and I think that they should go after another. That they should go after a bullpen arm for sure. Jordan Danks, though, I'm not sure if I like Jordan Danks. I mean, he's okay. He's pretty good defensively.
He's made some nice catches, except what you want from a backup outfielder in the American League. I mean, he's left-handed, and he's shown he's had some power. Usually he only plays well in John pitches.
Yeah, and I think a question mark for me is Adam Eaton, sort of. We're not quite sure what he's going to do. I mean, he was pretty good last year. He got hurt a lot. But,
yeah, he did.
But, I mean, he was pretty good. I don't know if he's necessarily, I don't think he's great. I think he's a good player.
He is a good player.
He's a great leadoff guy.
He's a good leadoff guy, except the thing with Adam Eaton that we don't really know is, can he still bat 300 while having little to no power? He hit 1 home run last season. In this day and age, you need to have at least some sort of power to get it to the outfield, because if you can't, maybe you need to hit a couple home runs, except he doesn't hit the ball very far. And
he always hits it down the corners past first and third base, or he'll beat out a throw to first sometimes.
Right, and that's another thing. That's more of a batting average on balls in play thing, where sometimes you get lucky where the fielders are playing or those hits slice fair, except usually the very next year when something like that happens, those line drives down the line are going foul. Mm-hmm. So, I think he needs to tone down on the idiocracy right there, because, he ran into a fence on a home run and got injured and went to the DL.
Yeah, that that was bad. I was actually at that game. The game against Texas, like August 6th or something. He ran into the wall trying to catch a home run.
Yeah, it was a home run, and then he went on the DL. I mean, I think he could be a good player. I think he's more of a 280 hitter than a 300, because, I mean, I just don't think that you can survive you can't be a 300 hitter if you're only hitting one home, because it just shows he doesn't have very much strength to hold up over the course of a whole season again. And, I mean, look at Tony Campana. He couldn't hit the ball to the outfield, and then when they play you in all the time, you're not going to beat out bunts.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, granted, Adam Eaton's probably better than Tony Campana.
That's true.
Probably a little stronger. It's just, you don't really know. Obviously, there was one full year of Adam Eaton. I think he's more of a 280 hitter, except he still could be a good leadoff hitter.
Yeah, and he'll get a lot of stolen bases, too, which should help.
Yeah, he could probably get 25 stolen bases. Needs to tone it down on the injuries, because you can't be running into a wall on a home run again.
Right, and it's like you're seeing, it's not like that's so important.
Right, yeah, I mean, is it really worth getting injured like that just to maybe catch that ball? Look at Bryce Harper. He hasn't even been able to develop as an MLB player because he keeps running into walls and injuring himself and coming back too early, getting injured again, having to go back to the DL. So, I mean, obviously, you want to tell your guys, make a great effort, except don't injure yourself just trying to catch one fly ball in a meaningless game.
Right, yeah, I mean, that was the Texas Rangers and the White Sox. They were both like at the bottom of the American League at that point.
That wasn't the game the Sox lost 16-0, was it? And Adam Dunn pitched?
No, that was the game. It was a Wednesday afternoon game, I think.
Oh, was that the game Sale pitched and they lost like 4-1?
Sale pitched. It was 3-1, I think.
3-1. I know was it Vicieto hit a home run in the 7th inning?
Yes, he did, and that was a fly ball that should not have gotten out of the park, and it somehow got out.
Yeah, I remember I was wondering if they were going to get shut out for the second game in a row, because I remember that Vicieto hit a home run late in the game.
Yes, and that Hawk and Stoney were actually broadcasting live from the Sale K-Zone.
Oh, were they?
And I was sitting in the Sale K-Zone, so that was kind of
is that where you got that K-Zone thing?
Yes.
That's in your room?
Yep, that's where I got that from. It was from that game. And I got a shirt, too.
Now, is it only on days that Sale pitches that you get those?
Yes, it's on days that Sale pitches. Those last two sections before the foul pole in left field are reserved for people with that. So you have to go up to this to like a booth like right above those sections, and they give you your shirt and validate your ticket and everything, and you get your shirt and your K-Zone sign, and then
Oh, okay. So they're not under the seats.
No, they're not under the seats. You have to go and get them.
So you just have to go to like some booth and then like show them, and they'll verify your ticket.
Yeah, they'll verify the ticket, and there you go. And it was it's only when Sale pitches. He pitched pretty well. He had I want to say 10 strikeouts that game, so he did pretty well. He gave up 3 runs to the Rangers, which isn't so good, but I think he gave up a solo shot and then a 2-run homer. I think were the 2 home runs, and those might have been the only hits too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Sale had a lot of good games last year. Obviously, he had the elbow injury.
I wonder, do you think he'll win a Cy Young before it's all said and done with him? I think he has a good chance.
As long as he's not in the same league as Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, as long as he's in the American League, he's always got a shot, right? I mean, right. After King Felix and Corey Kluber,
and David Price.
Yeah, he's like 3rd or 4th on that list.
Right,
for Cy Young candidacy.
Right, it depends where Max Scherzer goes. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of really good pitchers, and I think he'd get more votes if the White Sox were a better team.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if the Sox are doing good, he really improves his chances of winning a Cy Young.
Yeah, obviously that's how it's going to be. I mean, and obviously staying healthy. Mm-hmm. Staying healthy is another big key.
Yeah, I agree with that too. We're going to take an update. We'll come back and we will talk a little bit about the Blackhawks and the Bulls a little more, and then we'll finish up in our final segment. We'll talk about the hometown breakdown, where we'll talk even more about all that stuff too. So you're listening to Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. Now an update. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
I'm Ryan Risky.
All right, let's turn our attention to the Blackhawks real quick right now. They've been on a roll for sure, and they only, I believe their record is 22-10-2.
Yeah, I believe they have 47 points on the year, 47 or 48.
I think they're behind Anaheim in
by
second
1
place.
point.
By 1 point. So that's really exciting because there was a stretch. I want to say it was in mid to late November where they
won
lost
8 in a row.
Where they
lost a lot of games.
Yeah, there was a stretch where they lost a lot of their games in a row. They lost 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah, there was points during that stretch that they would have been out of the playoff race.
Right.
If that season had ended that day, and then they went and won 8 in a row, then lost one, then won another 5.
Yeah, and they had a few days ago they had a shootout loss. I think that was to Columbus.
Yeah, it was, and I was actually at the game the very next day against Toronto when they shut them out 4-0.
Yeah, that must have been fun to be at.
Yeah, but that was the first time I'd ever been at a hockey game where someone scored at the buzzer.
That's right. Somebody did score at the buzzer.
Versteeg scored with 0.2 seconds left.
Yeah, now I was at a game. This was in 2010. It was before they won their first Stanley Cup. Their first Stanley Cup since the 60s. And it was against Vancouver. It was in March. And the Hawks scored 5 goals in the first period against Vancouver.
Was it against Roberto Luongo?
Yes, and they pulled Luongo after that first period. Obviously they did. But, yeah, 5 goals in the first period. I was like, and that was my first Hawks game. I was like, this is what hockey is? It's all this fast-paced scoring? I don't remember. I never see it like that, but it was crazy. But then they only scored 1 goal then in the next 2 periods. And
it was probably Corey Schneider playing.
The Hawks won that game. I think the final score was 6-2 or 6-3, something like that. But I know Kane had a goal in that game. It was just and there was a fight that broke out in the first 20 seconds of the game because it was Vancouver. That's when they were huge rivals back then.
Yeah, and then Vancouver decided to start playing bad hockey.
Yeah, now the Hawks and Vancouver isn't so much of a rivalry game. Not nearly as much. It's sort of like San Jose, how that used to be a rivalry game. Now it's not so much a rivalry.
Right, and then Detroit, the rivalry with them just got taken away by the NHL.
Yeah, that got taken away, and now they only play twice a year, which kind of sucks, unless they happen to play each other in the NHL Finals. In the
Stanley Cup Final. That would be something if the Hawks and Detroit met in the Stanley Cup Finals.
How is Detroit doing this year?
Very well, really good.
Are they doing it? So it's a possibility early on, anyway. It's a possibility.
In a way, you kind of want to root for Detroit just so you could have that.
That would be very exciting.
That'd probably be the most watched Stanley Cup final in history.
Right, because those are the
original 6 teams.
Yeah, those are original 6 rivals right there.
Yeah, the biggest rivalry in the NHL probably.
Right, it's pretty interesting. Chicago has the biggest NHL rivalry. They have the biggest NFL rivalry with the Bears and Packers. That they have a pretty good. They have the second or third. Rivalry in baseball with the Cubs and Cardinals.
The second best rivalry in baseball is the Cubs and Cardinals.
Yeah, the first is Yankees, Red Sox. But
and then once the Cubs, get better and start playing better, that rivalry will be a lot better.
That rivalry will definitely be renewed, and there will be a lot more. There will be a lot more Cubs fans in St. Louis. There will be a lot more Cardinals fans up here at Wrigley Field to see them. So yeah, it'll be exciting. The Sox, as far as rivalries go, the Sox, it used to be...
I think it's the Twins as their rival.
Yes, I think that the Twins is their, set rival, but I think it used to be Milwaukee before Milwaukee moved to the National League. I know that was a big rivalry between Milwaukee and the White Sox, at least is what my dad said, but I wasn't really around for that.
Yeah,
so
I don't know that.
And then Detroit has never really been a rival of the White Sox as far as I know, but...
other than division rivals.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got Giants and Dodgers. That's a big rivalry out west.
That one's more of heated up recently. Well, the funny thing about
it has because everyone keeps dying and getting hurt, in the parking lots of those games.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that rivalry is it used to be the New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers rivalry,
and that was a rivalry too in New York.
Now both teams moved to California.
Yep. And the rivalry has stayed strong there, and then. It's just it's really interesting to see all the rivalries, and then in basketball the Bulls have a couple rivals, but not so much anymore.
You'd like to think. Probably right now the Cavaliers would probably be the
right now it's the Cavaliers,
rivals.
and the Cavaliers were a rival of the Bulls back in the late
LeBron
80s.
Yeah, the Michael Jordan days and the LeBron Jameses. So
Right.
back in the Jordan days, you'd probably argue that the big rival was the Pistons and the bad boys.
The big rival was the Pistons and the Knicks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now it's probably...
The Knicks later on, but
Yeah.
the Pistons first.
Since
yeah.
LeBron James came into the NBA, it's probably been Cleveland.
Yeah, I think it's been Cleveland too, and I hope that the Bulls can beat the Cavs because I mean in the Eastern Conference Finals, we're not quite sure if Toronto has the willpower to get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals.
No.
I think they're probably a team that'll lose in the second round or